This is the brand new Hoka Zinal. It's a stripped down trail shoe that Hoka says is geared for shorter distances that emphasizes both speed and agility. But does it live up to this promise? Let's lace up the Zinal and put them to the test. .02 miles, 8 minutes, 37 seconds per mile, 146 beats per minute today. Going for a mostly easy run and throwing in some hill sprints, not exactly sprints, still recovering from the marathon over the weekend. Let's call them surges. Some hill surges going up the hill, the one hill that we have here in Chicago a couple of times, charging up and down to give myself some practice for the 50K that I have coming up in, I think, just about 10 days now. So in 2 weekends, I'll be heading out to Eastern Iowa, potentially taking the Hoka Zinal with me for that race. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this brand new trail shoe from Hoka, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me by Hoka for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe either today or in a race. And they're not gonna get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Hoka One One Zinal. So this is a brand new shoe from Hoka that I think they're using to kind of approach a different segment in the trail running market. I think that when we, at least for me, from a road runner's perspective, when I think of trail running, I think of ultra marathons. But not all trail races are ultra marathon distances. The Sierre Zinal race is a 30K race, which has quite a bit of technical terrain, but is also a pretty speedy race as well. And that's kind of, I think, the inspiration for this shoe, because it is definitely a shoe that I think can handle technical terrain, or at least as technical of a terrain that I can handle, and also feels pretty speedy at the same time. Let's go over some of the specs for this shoe. This shoe is a 22 millimeter stack height shoe in the heel with a 4 millimeter drop, giving us 18 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. And that midsole foam in this shoe is going to be Profly, which we've seen a couple of times already in 2021. We've seen it most recently in the Mach 4. It's that 2 foam system. Up top, you have a little bit of a softer foam, a lighter foam that's going to give you a little bit more comfort underfoot. But below that, there is a rubberized EVA that is going to provide a little bit more springiness, a little bit more responsiveness. And it's also a material that you can run directly on. At least that's how it's used in the Mach 4. The difference here is in this shoe, you're not running directly on that profly rubberized EVA outsole layer. Instead, there is a Vibram Litebase outsole here. It's 30% lighter and 50% thinner, and Vibram promises that it still provides 100% of the performance. And the lugs on this shoe are 4 millimeter lugs. Up top, the upper material is made out of recycled fabrics. I'm not sure if they're using Repreve fabrics, which I know they're using in some of their other shoes. The information that I have from Hoka says that it's recycled materials. I'm not sure what percentage of it's recycled materials or not, but they have told me that it is a 100% vegan upper. At the toes, there's a little bit of a TPU overlay, but it's not very strong here. So for people that, like me, tend to kick a lot of things as they're on the trails, I would like to see just a little bit more kind of like rigidity up front, but I did kick some rocks today. And what ended up happening was I ended up kicking it with the midsole, this Profly midsole material here. So it felt like it was fine. I don't really feel like I hurt my toes at all, even though there wasn't a lot of protection on the actual top of the toes itself. Really, it's more like a layer that's going to keep a lot of the moisture and some of the dust and other kind of debris out of the toes, but it's not like a super protective layer. It's very floppy up front. But that's because overall up front, this upper is geared for speed and breathability. For a trail shoe, it's probably one of the more breathable uppers that I've encountered. I did also get it wet, and when the water came in, it seemed to drain out really quickly as well, so I definitely appreciated that. For the tongue, it looks like they pulled the tongue right off of the Mach 4 because it's got that like mesh tongue, but there is like another TPU type of overlay, kind of the same thing they have going on this toe bumper and the same thing they have kind of on this seam on the side here. That material is on the top of the tongue, I think just to help keep some of the grit and dirt out of the shoe, but it's nice and thin, which I love to see. Around the heel collar, there's a little bit of padding in here and just a little bit of structure. Not too much though, relatively floppy back here, which is kind of what I like to see in a shoe that I'm going to be trying to go a little bit faster in, which is what this shoe really wants to be doing. Altogether, this entire package comes in at a weight of 8.5 ounces or 242 grams. So what is it like to run in the Hoka Zinal? Hoka calls this a nimble trainer. I called it in the preview that I put on Instagram yesterday, a profly trail racer. And some of you guys were asking if this is basically like a trail Mach 4. And I think pretty much all of those descriptions could definitely fit for this shoe. The profly midsole, if you haven't experienced it, it's a nice combination of foams. You do get some of that softness from that top layer, but that bottom layer keeps you from getting too like squished into the foam, and it keeps things moving very quickly. It does feel like it's a very snappy ride. I did think that it didn't perform quite as well on paved surfaces as I thought it might because the 4mm lugs aren't that tall. I thought it would have kind of a little bit better road manners, but it felt a little bit rugged for paved surfaces. But once I got onto like gravel paths or even things that were hard packed, but that just weren't asphalt, then I felt like the shoe was doing fantastic. I had it on some dirt roads, some gravel roads. It did really fine there. I just felt like that was kind of like the right level of softness to match with the tread of the outsole and with the responsiveness that's in the midsole material. I also had it up on some rocks today, which is always kind of a fun thing that I like to do. I don't really feel like there's a huge training benefit for me to be doing that because I don't anticipate there be rocks quite like that for this 50K that I have coming up, my first trail race. But I just like doing that. It's a lot of fun. It kind of takes your mind off of the run and you're just kind of like focusing on being in the moment and making sure you don't trip over stuff, which I have fallen on those rocks a couple of times before. So it's not unheard of for me to kind of lose my footing. So I do have to pay quite a bit of attention. And I really enjoyed running in the Zinal on those rocks today. It had rained all morning, some pretty hard rains. It wasn't raining by the time that I got out for the run today. I pushed my run back a little bit. I had a little bit of wiggle room in the morning that I could do that, but things were pretty wet out there, so you know, I felt like it was a really good test, and the grippiness of that Vibram Litebase was really nice. I just felt super secure. I really didn't have to think about the slipperiness of anything that I was stepping on. It was really nice to have that security, so I felt like I could really move a little bit quicker than I might normally get through that section. Then once I got past the rocks, I was up onto the hill, and the workout for today was to kind of surge both up and down the hill so I can get a sense of, well, number one, I wanted to put in a moderate workout as I'm fine-tuning and honing my preparations for this Trail 50K that's coming up. But I also wanted to see kind of what this thing is like when you're pushing it past kind of like easy pace. And going uphill, the lightness of the shoe felt really nice. It just felt like a lot of the shoe kind of like tucked itself in and out of the way so that I could charge up the hill without having to really worry about the shoe. But it was wet and a little bit muddy out there. So it was nice to have the Vibram Litebase to help provide a little bit of traction, so I didn't feel like I slipped at all. And then going downhill, it felt really nice as well because the heel on the back of the shoe is really stout. It's like, it's a low slung shoe. I feel like everything's low to the ground. The stack height's not too high. Even the heel collar, everything just seems really low about this shoe. But the back of the shoe is nice and fat. And what I feel like that does is I feel like as I'm coming downhill, it gives me a nice kind of crash pad to land on. And you're landing right on the rubberized EVA midsole foam here, which is a little bit thicker, a little bit firmer, is able to absorb that impact well. And then as it's bouncing back, it's picking you up and helping you keep those feet moving nice and quick. So I really appreciated that. And I also felt like the width of the back of that heel helped me if I needed to make some changes in direction as I was running down the hill as well. And I had to do a little bit of artificial. I was kind of just zigzagging down the bottom of the hill a couple times as well, just to get a sense of, you know, as I'm going really fast at a much quicker turnover speed going down the hill, if I did need to make a turn on some wet grass, muddy type of terrain, how would that feel? And the shoe felt really good. I just felt, again, quite confident that I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do without having to worry about the shoe, worrying that I was going to turn an ankle or that I was going to do any sliding. I just feel like the fit is really well dialed in on this shoe, and I just felt like the material is strong enough to withstand some of like those turning forces that you might see on a little bit more of a technical terrain, especially when you're bombing downhill on some of those descents. So I was really happy with the way that this shoe fit. For me, it fits me like a glove, and I just felt just really confident in the shoe. I did feel a little bit of snugness on the outer toe on my left foot, but that left foot has been constantly giving me trouble over the last kind of like month and a half as I've been increasing mileage, getting ready for the 50K. So I just think that I've got a little bit of a swollen toe over there. But overall, I feel like the amount of volume in the toe box really works for what this shoe is intended to be, which is that shorter distance speed / agility shoe. So I feel like you're getting a lot of precision, not only just with the way that this heel is so stout in the back and able to just really plant yourself and get you that control, but I also feel like there's a lot of that precision in the fit in the forefoot as well. Part of that's coming from the lightness, part of that's coming from the confidence that Vibram Litebase outsole is providing as well. But I just feel like, you know, I can go anywhere in this shoe, and the limit isn't the shoe, and the limit isn't like the conditions, the limit is me. Which is, you know, a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because I'm not the most experienced trail runner. But I feel like the equipment's not going to be holding me back by any means. I'm going to be able to push as hard as I could push in these shoes. So just really fun to be able to run in these. And, you know, I'm still a little bit tired from the longer run from last weekend. So, you know, it was one of those days where I wished I could push harder, and I really wished that I had some more challenging hilly type of trail terrain to be able to push this shoe on. So it's high in the consideration for this trail race that I've got coming up for me, because I've got for that race, it's going to be in eastern Iowa in the Bluffs, and I've never been on these particular trails, but I'm familiar with the general geography. We spent a lot of time out there last year with my in-laws. The race is going to be, I think, less than 50 miles from, maybe 70 miles from where my in-laws live. So the terrain I'm very familiar with, and when they say bluffs and when they say there's going to be 5,500 feet of elevation change over the course of the 50K, I have a pretty good idea of what that means. And I think that this shoe could be a lot of fun to be going both uphill and downhill for that kind of terrain. But I am also worried about like the amount of time that I'm going to be out there for a 50K race. I really don't know how long I'm going to be out there. I've run 50Ks, I've run 50K trail races, but I've run 50K trail solo time trials, but I've not run a 50K trail race with a lot of elevation changes. So it'll be interesting to see how long I'm out there. And that's going to be kind of my main concern, is that this shoe isn't really designed, I think, for very long distances or just logging tons of hours in. And I'm a little bit worried that like the precision fit of the upper that's required for a precision shoe like this might get a little bit tiresome for me on a longer distance if I'm thinking that I'm going to be out there closer to 6 hours. But, you know, we'll see. It's something that I'm really excited about, and I want to put a lot more miles in because it's just really fun to go fast in this shoe and just let it rip. So I'm super excited about it. This shoe goes on sale July 1st. So it's a little bit early for me to be taking a look at it, but I really want to take a look at it for selfish reasons, because I think I might use it for the race. The pre-order starts June 15th, so in a couple of weeks now, you'll be able to take a pre-order at this. The list price is going to be $160, so a little bit on the pricey side, but I just feel like that agility is really nice feeling underfoot. typically when I feel that kind of level of kind of precision and agility in a trail shoe, it also feels really uncomfortable for me. Like I just feel like I'm really boxed in, and it also feels like the midsole is just like rock solid. This is giving me kind of all those benefits that I'm looking for in a package that I can kind of live with, actually. So it's pretty unique where it's situated kind of in like the trail shoe kind of spectrum that are available to you as racing options. So something that I'll be very excited to put more miles in. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or better yet, feel free to stop by the live stream I do just about every day. It's always a lot easier for me to answer questions there, because then we can always have a little bit of back and forth in case you have any follow-up, or in case I need to get a little bit more information on what you're asking. It's always just a fun time, and I love to talk to you guys over there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?